Welcome back to Suzie Anderson Home. Today is part 3 of the classic aesthetic. We're sharing some of the core principles that underpin classical architecture and design, and how these can be applied to any interior style to achieve a harmonious and cohesive home. Last week we explored the classical approach to windows and doors, flooring, fireplace surrounds, staircases and wall niches, which I've linked in the description box below. The Classic Aesthetic Part 3. The Language of Classical Architecture. Classical architecture is a visual language, and like any other language, it has its own grammatical rules. This architectural language was developed during antiquity, in the early Greek and Roman times. At the time, it was Vitruvius who originated the idea that all buildings should have 3 attributes: strength, utility, and beauty. The 5 classical orders. What are the 5 orders? According to John Summerson, an order is the column and superstructure unit of a temple colonnade. It refers to styles of neoclassical architecture that are defined by the column and entablature they use as a basic unit. Vitruvius introduced 3 of the orders: Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian, and later included a slight reference to the 4th, the Tuscan. It wasn't until the 15th century that Leon Battista Alberti, who we mentioned in part 1, added the 5th order, the Composite. Together, these orders are the Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian of Greek character, and the orders Tuscan and Composite of Roman character. A few of the shared features include the entablature, which includes the architrave, frieze and cornice, the capital, which is the most distinctive feature, the shaft or column, the stylobate, on which a row of columns is supported, the column base and plinth, and a pediment which may or may not be included. The Doric order. Doric order is one of the simplest designs, featuring stout proportions, vertical grooves known as fluting, and a frieze featuring triglyphs and metopes. It is the only column that does not feature a base. The Ionic order. The Ionic order is slender and more ornate than the Doric, featuring a distinct base and column capitals that include scroll-like shapes, also known as volutes, which spiral in on either side of the capital. The Corinthian order. Along with the Composite, the Corinthian is the tallest and most slender of the columns. It's highly embellished, featuring elegant bell-shaped capital with volutes, 2 staggered rows of stylized acanthus leaves, and 4 scrolls. The Tuscan order. The Tuscan order was a Roman adaptation of the Doric column and was reserved for the most basic of buildings, and it is the least ornamented. The Composite order. Lastly, the Composite order is made of elements from the Ionic and Corinthian orders. It features a distinct base, and its capital is composed of both Ionic volutes and Corinthian acanthus leaf ornamentation. The main difference between the Corinthian and Composite orders is the size of the volutes, which are more prominent in the Composite capital. Columns can serve both structural and functional roles, as well as purely decorative. Now that we have a general understanding of the 5 orders, here is what they can teach us. Scale and proportion. The first lesson is in proportion and scale. These principles are used extensively in classical architecture, and striking the right balance is essential to a harmonious design. Scale. Scale refers to how the size of one object in a space relates to the size of the other objects in the space, as well as the size of the space itself. Scale is sensed through our experience, learning the relative size of humans, trees, animals, and everything else in relation to each other. Applied to architecture, intimate scale, grand scale, and human scale are based on how we visually understand a building relative to ourselves, measuring the doors, windows, and ceilings against our own size and relative to each other. Proportion. Proportion is the dimensional relationship of one part to another or to the whole, described in terms of a ratio. Proportion is accounted for in the 5 classic orders, as they were not based on fixed measurements, but rather on the proportioning of the 5 parts in relation to the whole. Some actionable ways to account for scale and proportion in your home include your colour palette. For example, the 60-30-10 rule states that 60% of the room should be a dominant colour, 30% should be a secondary colour or texture, and the last 10% should be an accent. Your furniture choices. Having pieces of different proportions in a room allows the eye to travel harmoniously through a space rather than feeling static. Consider ceiling height and vertical scale. Consider the height of your ceiling. If you have tall reaching ceilings, opt for larger scale art pieces and mirrors, tall reaching bookshelves and wall mouldings. Patterns and repetition. As mentioned in our layering series, including a combination of patterns within your colour template adds surprise whilst maintaining harmony and cohesion. Be sure to mix different designs and scales, including small, medium and large prints. Lighting. Lighting can be used to scale down a space and to create a cosy feel in an open plan home by breaking up bigger spaces into intimate nooks through the layering of ambient, accent, task and mood lighting. Decorative vignettes and accessories. Effective vignettes result in a curated and visually pleasing design where nothing jumps out or competes and items work together in harmony. For example, large-scale rooms may call for oversized standalone pieces, such as an eye-catching sculpture, ceramic vases, woven baskets, coral and more. This ensures that they won't get lost amongst the furniture and artwork. The second principle is balance. Balance refers to the equilibrium among parts by placing the elements in such a way that the visual weight in terms of objects, colours, textures and space is evenly distributed. Balancing visual weight. Every element you place in a room has a weight. This visual weight can come from the line, shape, colour and texture of the different objects, as well as the scale and proportion to achieve a visually balanced result. It's important not to crowd visually heavy or light elements in one area of your composition, instead distributing furniture and decorative objects as evenly as possible. The types of balance. There are three main types of balance: formal, informal, and radial. Classical interiors are more formal and aim for symmetrical balance. This type of balance is simple to achieve since design features are duplicated on both sides, known as mirroring. Asymmetry is a form of informal design that uses opposite weights to create a composition that is not even but still has an equilibrium. This form of balance can be used to bring visual interest and movement to your composition. Emphasis is another element of balance and consists of drawing attention to one or more points in a composition. It involves the placement of accents, using colour, texture, line or patterns to form a focal point around which the rest of the decor will revolve. Radial balance works with emphasis to place the focus on a centre point that is reinforced by repeating other elements around it. Examples of radial balance include a circular dining table that is reinforced by rugs, lighting, parquet flooring, decorative accessories, floral arrangements, or chair placement. Negative space. Striking the right balance between positive and negative space is another key component of balance. Negative space refers to the distance between and around furniture and objects and their proportions within a room. Line. As mentioned above, line in interior design can be used to place emphasis on a particular part of a composition, evoke emotion, and accentuate horizontal and vertical planes. Horizontal lines are associated with stability, tranquility, peace, and timelessness. Whereas vertical lines represent grandeur, strength, and elevation. Round and curved lines will soften otherwise angular spaces and straight lines, offering a natural, soft and soothing aesthetic. Diagonal lines will add energy, drama and movement to a space and offer a contemporary feel through the inclusion of modern fabric patterns, wallpaper or flooring. Contrast. Lastly, contrast is where two or more elements that have opposite characteristics are placed together. While contrast is used sparingly in classical design, its impact is striking. For example, the use of light and shadow, or chiaroscuro, is a critical part of classical design that can be used to create contrast and define a space. Other forms of contrast include the pairing of light and dark or warm and cool colours, the layering of antique, vintage and contemporary pieces, the combination of organically shaped decor and angular pieces, among others. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed part 3 of the classic aesthetic. Please like the video and subscribe, as it helps us reach more people passionate about styling. Remember, when designing a home you love, the beauty is in the detail.